siempre hemos sabido que internet está lleno de gente rara, pero yo siento que genuinamente hay pocos casos como el que vamos a ver hoy día. Es bizarro, es horrible y es algo que genuinamente parece que salió de un creepypasta, pero lamentablemente no lo es. Es la vida real, es una persona real haciendo cosas que no deberían ser reales. Así que gente, hoy vamos a ver qué pasa cuando una persona enferma aprende a usar Photoshop y por qué nunca deberían subir fotos de sus hijos. ¡Vamos!
Beautiful boy, an account looked after by me, a degree-educated mother choosing to stay anonymous. This was the bio of the first account pictured in the Reddit post, an account named TruthSticks11, which was said to be operated by a 12-year-old boy and his mother. Back in October of 2021, the duo would make their very first post, kicking things off on a somewhat concerning note, though not for their own page, but instead another account on the platform.
So, that's the account run by a man pretending to be a boy.
Se nota que la voz no es... Se nota el tiro que la voz no es de una mamá, weón.
The video was created
Se nota el tiro, culiado, es
and posted
estúpido,
by
weón.
the mother for the
Suena como tú, ok, ponte serio, weón, ok.
sole purpose of warning others of a specific user who had been posing as a child online when, in actuality, he was a grown man who did this in order to get close to and exploit other children across the platform. It's the grim reality of this online world, as predators will do just about anything to get closer to children, and it's a reality often unrealized or even ignored by parents, which makes it almost refreshing that this mother was out here trying to raise awareness. These posts would become the crux of the account early on.
Creo yo sé que debe pasar, pero nunca he visto una cuenta así que se haga pasar por un niño o algo, weón. ¿De real existen, weón? ¿Han visto algo así en la vida real,
They would
weón?
call out this user and their many accounts again and again, eventually going more in depth about what this person would actually do, claiming that they had a strange perversion to dressing up as a young schoolboy. Does he wish he were a young boy in a school classroom, looking nice and being successful at school? Yes. This theme of calling out online predators would remain consistent throughout the years on TruthSticks11. However, after some time, the
Como que los años, weón. ¿Cuántos años llevo operando esa
mother
weón?
behind the account began to use the page for its initially intended purpose, to share photos of her son. The photos began reasonably normal, and would show this young boy studying at school, accepting awards from their principal, and even
Julián, si yo tuviera un hijo, weón, si yo tuviera una guagua, weón, primera regla sería no fotos. Nunca poner las fotos de nadie, weón. No debería existir,
school
weón.
presentations in which their son had
No
attended,
debería pasar, weón.
with the captions often boasting about how intelligent the young boy was. Though over time, the photos began to grow stranger.
Weón, parece creepypasta la weá, culiao. Jeff the Killer, weón. Horrible, weón.
They looked off, almost as if they were AI generated. And on top of this, they began to appear heavily
Pero es que no parecen como generadas por IA, weón. Parecen como photoshopeadas así, pero pa'l pico, weón.
edited in an almost inexplicable manner, with deep red lipstick often being added, which was enunciated by his face being turned pure white.
Weón, ahí está la naranja molestosa,
This
culiao.
unsettling trend would
Inspiración.
continue from here, as with each passing post, the photos grew less authentic and more surreal.
Y los subtítulos, weón. Me cago. Si me sale esta weá en explorar de Insta, me cago entero, weón.
Until they became straight up disturbed, even sickening. These bizarre edits spilled over past just the images too, as the posts began to appear as disjointed collages, often showcasing multiple grotesque images and paragraphs about how much this user loved school. And this
Creo que esto es un creepypasta. Weón, sigue viendo nomás. No es un creepypasta. Eso es lo más raro de toda la wea. No es un creepypasta. No es como alguien... Oh, weón, es
wasn't
que
the only
es
shift
repico,
either.
weón.
At some point, the son behind the account began posting content that allegedly came directly from him, saying things like, "My really cool mom asked me if I'd like to post, and I said, yes please." He even shared supposed videos that he had filmed of himself, which were equally as unconvincing as his photos, and somehow even more chilling.
Pero, yo sé que es serio, pero... Yo sé que es serio, pero eso va a estar chistoso, weón. Ya nada que hacerle, creo.
the boy
Culeado que usaba la IA ¿Cómo se llama esta weá, weón? Dame o no, weón. Tóxica, respeta mi privacidad. Cuando salía el perro, weón. Esta misma weá, weón.
Respeta mi privacidad, que mi WhatsApp no es tuyo, bájale a tu intensidad.
¿Qué intensidad ni qué intensidad? Le voy a meter un estrellón al cel si tú no me lo dejas.
Mismas vibras, culiado. Horrible, weón.
even shows off his singing in one of the clips. Though their voice sounds off. The account was overall anomalous and extremely off-putting. And though this content was visually alarming, another aspect...
Calmado, que alguien dijo, referencia culia enorme que usaste, weón. Eduardo, lamento informarte que ya no se puede usar la palabra enorme, weón. Ya no se puede usar, weón. Ya no es socialmente aceptable, culiao.
Concerning, as over time, many of the images began to resemble CP, showcasing these fake AI children in explicit positions, with their faces sometimes even being photoshopped onto scantily dressed adult bodies. One thing is blatantly obvious about the Truth Sticks account: the supposed child behind it is not real. Even in the more passable photos at the very beginning, there's evidence to suggest that these were likely AI as well. And based on the disturbed, borderline illegal content...
Pero no sé si sí, ¿sabes qué parece más, weón? Que como que tomó la foto de un niño y la hizo mierda en Photoshop, pero al final igual es como alguien real. No siento que sea ella,
that this
weón.
page featured.
No
It seemed
parece
more
ella,
than
weón.
likely that whoever was behind this page was not an innocent mother concerned for the welfare of other children, but instead, a predatory individual themselves. And this wasn't their only account. The second page featured on the Reddit post belonged to a user named GirlChloe12 and bore striking similarities to Truth Sticks. The page was also supposedly run by a child and monitored by their parent. Bizarrely, they also posted frequently about the dangers of online predators, with the wording of these...
Oh, weón, una vez encontré algo así que estaba como todo conectado, weón. Me acuerdo que era Facebook. Encontré como una weá como que era como unos furros, weón. Pero unos furros como súper raros, weón. Y tú te metías al perfil y era como si fuera una familia, weón. Y como que se comentaban entre sí y eran puros perfiles como de lobos, weón. Y eran como una... No sé si era la misma persona o una comunidad. Como que el weón tenía en una relación con... Y era otra persona con fotos furra, weón. Y como que se comentaban las fotos entre sí, weón. Era súper raro, weón.
posts and the
¿Cómo lo encontré? No me acuerdo, no sé, culiao, pero ya, weón.
editing being essentially the exact same as Truth Sticks, just not as over the top. These two accounts even frequently interacted with each other, thus providing a substantial link on its own. But by far the most compelling link between these pages is one that is easy to miss at a glance, with that being a blatant obsession with high-heeled mini boots. These shoes were mentioned or shown in virtually every single post made by these two users. At playtime, I'm sometimes running around with my really cool heeled footwear I wear with my uniform. After coming home from school, education isn't over for the day once the blue blazer, gray jersey, neat tie, white shirt, tailored close-fit gray trousers, and black heeled mini boots are in the wardrobe. No matter what they discussed, school uniforms and mini boots were always a talking point, which adds
Culiao, qué raro el estilo artístico de la weá, weón.
confirmation to something that is already
Qué
becoming
chucha,
apparent.
weón. Nunca he visto una weá así, no sé si tendrá un nombre, alguien sabrá, weón.
This is fetish
Qué raro, culiao.
content. Not too unlike the bizarre accounts in the Pipergate rabbit hole. Fetish content centered around children. And what makes the Chloe account so disturbing is that AI was seemingly not used, and rather the images seem to be of actual children. Despite this disturbing distinction, these two accounts are cut from the same cloth, and all signs point to them being created by the same person. A person who, despite their constant warnings of the dangers of adults pretending to be children online, seems to be doing the exact same thing, as part of some sort of fetish, the extent of which we'll discuss later. But for now, one thing was for certain. These pages were not run by children, or their parents. So, who created them?
O sea, que me recuerda un poco. ¿Se acuerdan de esa wea que había como un tipo que había creado un foro y todos los temas los había creado él y todas las respuestas a los temas eran de él y como que todas las conversaciones eran él hablando con él mismo, weón? Algo así, culiao.
Well, that brings us to our third
Pero
and final
peor,
account
weón.
shown in that initial post. smartschoolboy9 was much the same as the other two accounts. They warned of online predators, obsessed over high-heeled mini boots and school uniforms, and posed as a child despite clearly not being one. But Smart Schoolboy was different in one key aspect. The person behind the account was pretending to be a child, but they were doing so in a much more apparent manner, as they didn't use AI or stolen images of other kids to form their identity, and instead, they used photos of himself.
Se ve como alguien que haría esto, honestamente, weón. Se ve, weón.
In the images posted on the account, we see what appears to be a fully grown man, dressed in a schoolboy's uniform. His face is painted pure white and has bright red lipstick.
Creo que se parece a los edits que hace, es igual, weón.
And he's, of course, wearing
Weón, es el valle de lo desconocido de esta persona, weón.
high-heeled mini boots. Characteristics that were all utilized across the other accounts. Only this time, it was done on himself, as he poses as a child, pretending to go to school, as well as pretending to go through other life events common for preteens. And the photos aren't even the most disturbing part, as the account consists primarily of videos.
Oh. School. Hi. Let me know if you like school as well.
The videos are all incredibly off.
Creo, ¿cómo le da para dar la cara? Aunque sea como, puta, un poco, weón. Yo sé que no se ve como un ser humano real, weón. Weón, yo sé que no hay chance de averiguar quién es con esta foto, culiado, no se puede, weón. Pero como chucha, weón. Haciendo las asquerosidades así como, weón, tan públicas, weón.
Some show him arriving
¿Cómo
home
tanto,
from school.
weón? Tan poca vergüenza, weón.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. School.
Others show him claiming to be on the bus heading toward school.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'm on the school bus.
And other videos showing him doing whatever this is.
Qué chucha, culiado. Bueno, la esquizofrenia máxima, weón.
With these strange sounds and the process of sticking his tongue out appearing to be part of his fetish. As much like the other accounts, his content is overtly sexual, in its own bizarre way. In fact, there's a video of him with his full outfit on, where he shows himself staring into a mirror as he appears to pleasure himself, right out of view of the camera, as he stares into his own eyes. This account is by far the most sickening part of this whole rabbit.
Ya, pero este es como el tipo de personas que deberían fuera de hueveo y no como insulto meterlo en un manicomio, ¿o no, weón? Es como que gente que no funciona en la sociedad, weón.
And also the most important. Interspersed throughout his page are a few
O sea, como debe ser una persona que genuinamente debe pensar que lo que hace no es tan brígido, ¿no? Es
examples
como
of what this
de un enfermo mental así, pero
individual's voice sounds
de
like,
libro.
This is quite good.
which just so happens to be the same voice heard in the very first clip.
Se parece a mi tío sin wear. Ya encontré, weón, descubrimos el... Ya no, que no investiguen más, pues, weón. Que no investiguen más, que encontramos la wea, parece.
Shown
Weón.
on the Truth Sticks account,
A man pretending to be a boy.
meaning that this full-grown adult man is the one behind this entire rabbit hole. He's the one on these accounts pretending to be a child and their mother, getting some sort of sick satisfaction from whatever this is. And the worst part is, these activities aren't just kept behind closed doors. As we can see on numerous occasions, videos of him walking around outside in a public space, with his full outfit and face paint on.
¡Oh, qué miedo! Ir por la calle y encontrar esta weá, weón. ¿Qué así, weón? ¡Qué asco, culiao!
Look at school.
It's truly one of the strangest things that I've ever seen, and making sense of what this all is extremely difficult. But
Le pego. ¿Cómo que le pego? ¿Basado en qué? Si lo veis en la calle no sabéis lo que está haciendo, sabéis que es raro. No le podéis pegar así porque sin saber nada más. Quizás sabiendo la historia le podéis pegar, weón. O no sé si lo podéis pegar, pero quizás entiendo que lo hagáis.
based on the
weón.
information found from
Pero
this
sí, porque
first
sí.
Reddit post, a few likely conclusions can be put forward. This man is clearly attracted to the idea of being a kid, and I think OP was correct when they speculated that this was some sort of age play thing, but it's also clearly much more than that too. As based on the images that he's created himself, he clearly has some sort of attraction to other children as well, as he's quite literally created faux CP, the likes of which is so disturbing that I can't even really describe.
Y si él como que cree que es un niño, entonces en su cabeza es como apropiado tener como sentimientos por otros niños, weón. Así, weón, así de una forma enfermiza él cree que lo está haciendo bien, weón. Pero como que... Pero si así fuera no haría la weón. Es que no sé, weón. Que lo siento muy consciente de su acto, weón. Lo siento como que sabe lo que está haciendo. No siento que...
He's
no sé,
creating
weón.
fetish content, and he's using the likeness of children, and also some children that are clearly very real people, to do so. That much is obvious. But there was also the possibility that he was pretending to be a kid in order to exploit other children across the internet. At this point, though, this was merely speculation, with much of the smartschoolboy9 case remaining a mystery, and the rabbit hole was only getting deeper from here.
El weón desagradable.
Yo creo que lo van a terminar metiendo preso, weón. Con este video tiene como 4 millones de visitas, weón. Y esto es como reciente, weón. Yo creo genuinamente que lo van a meter preso, weón. Va a ser uno de los pocos misterios de internet que van a terminar con una resolución, weón.
Months after this rabbit hole was introduced to the online world, the story began to be shared all across the internet, most notably on the r/internet mysteries subreddit, where the case really took off. There, internet sleuths began uncovering just how vast this web of accounts actually was, as it wasn't just these 3 pages. No, there seemed to be
¿Qué está pasando con los subtítulos, weón?
over a dozen, and likely even more that we still haven't found,
¿Cagaron pa'
as he's
siempre?
created his own sort of community, his own little world.
Weón, cagar los subtítulos, me estoy weando. Weón, ¿por qué está hablando en coreano? ¿Qué pasó con mis subtítulos, weón? Calmado, cagó todo el video, weón. No puedo. Calmado. Hasta la vida se asustó. Sí, weón.
Most notably on the r/internet mysteries subreddit, where the case really took off. There, internet sleuths began
Aquí voy a tener que traducir yo porque cagó la weá, weón.
uncovering just how vast this web of accounts actually was, as it wasn't just these 3 pages.
No era solamente estas 3 páginas.
No, there seemed to be over a dozen, and likely
Habían más, habían docenas.
even more that we still haven't found.
Incluso más que quizás aún no hemos
He's
encontrado.
created his own sort of community, his own
Creó su
little
propia
world,
comunidad.
where across each page he pretends to be a child,
Donde en cada una de las cuentas se hace pasar por un niño.
with these accounts typically following
¿Por qué me ponen ya? Estoy traduciendo, quédense.
each other and frequently interacting, seemingly
Estas páginas se siguen entre ellas e interactúan entre ellas.
to make these characters appear as though they have real friends. On
Como para hacer como que esta cuenta está hecho un pico chat. Ya dejen morirme ya, weón.
one
Déjenme
of these
tranquilo.
pages, 12 Stockwell Joanne, he poses as a 14-year-old girl,
En estas páginas se hace pasar por una niña de 13
using
años.
more AI images to depict explicit
Usando
positions of
más
this manufactured
Fotos hechas con IA para demostrar.
child, which I obviously am not going to show here. Though much like his Chloe account, he also shows images of very real young girls. But this isn't the most concerning part of this account, as on numerous occasions he's shown images of children at a playground.
Pero más, weón, porque con estas fotos, estas fotos culiadas horribles, weón, van a pillar donde vive, weón. Weón, weón, le voy a sacar una foto a este puro poste y ya tenían su dirección, cómo se llama, su casa, el color de ojo, weón, su sangre, weón. Toda la weá,
Which
weón.
he may have taken himself. This fantasy of being a schoolgirl and taking part in these school-centric activities is something carried over throughout multiple of his accounts, with his most common alias being Stephanie, of which he has numerous different accounts featuring that same name.
Yeah, I'm Stephanie.
¡Uy! ¡Qué asco, culiao! Diablo, weón.
This Stephanie character claims to be a 12-year-old aspiring poet, with accounts all across the
Es como si estuviera intentando hacer que la weá parezca creepypasta, weón. Fuera de hueveo, weón.
internet, many of which showcasing examples of her poetry, which carries on those same distinct sexual undertones. I race to complete my poems when I've got an early start. Heart racing, mixed rhythms, maximizing miracles, rice with rap, and on the map. My Kennington, London syllables. Dancing though I know my underwear might show if I lean forward. Good. Stephanie Stansfield, 12. But digging even deeper, her poetry has even seemingly been featured in various articles and even newspapers, showcasing that this rabbit hole extends far past just the online world. This act is clearly their obsession, and he's been doing this for years, with the earliest examples that I could find coming from all the way back in 2018. And this Stephanie character seems to be his go-to alias, embodying it in even the literal sense.
Chucha, weón.
As in one of his many pages dedicated to
¿De qué trabaja este culiao? ¿Cómo sobrevive,
this
weón?
Stephanie character, he dresses as her, wearing a wig and a dress, as he pretends to be a 12-year-old girl.
Culeo, qué loco que hay gente que genuinamente vive así, weón. Con la cabeza pa'l pico, weón. Deben tener cerebros tan raros, weón. Deben tener pensamientos tan extraños todo el día, weón. No me lo imagino funcionando en ningún contexto, culeo. No me lo imagino así como, weón, saliendo a la calle a comprar pan. Es que no me lo puedo imaginar, weón.
Almost immediately after this case began gaining traction,
Es como un monstruo,
the
weón.
true magnitude of this rabbit hole was revealed. Across every single account are countless depraved posts and oddities that all could warrant discussion. But by far the most important discoveries were those that didn't actually occur on his own page, and rather the pages of other actual children. Do you like school? I do. It is good. You have some cool shirts, but I have to wear school uniforms to school. It is nice, but casual isn't allowed, and it's quite hot here in the UK, as the month of June suddenly got warmer. These are two examples out of many that show smartschoolboy9 reaching out and attempting to befriend young children online. In one comment, he even warns a child about other comments from bad people, stating that, "It happens to most boys in our age group, but stay safe, stay cool, don't be dismayed by creeps." This is our
Pero, a ver. Su cerebro tiene que saber que está hablando de lo mismo, culeo. Tiene que saber, weón, culeo.
best evidence that these accounts weren't just made for age play. No, he's actually posing as a child in order to make friends with other children. And given his overtly sexual interests and aversion to CP, it's not hard to gather why he was doing this. And these examples are only what we found so far. It's possible that there are dozens, or who knows, maybe even hundreds of other comments out there, hidden on unknown children's accounts. This is predatory behavior. The man behind Schoolboy9 is a predator.
Sí,
And
pero
in
está
case there was
claro,
still
weón.
any doubt of whether or not this was a sexual thing, here's what he had to say about being a 13-year-old girl.
¿Qué? Dice, tener 13 es muy... Ok, no le...
But have his tactics actually worked? Well, the frightening thing is, no one knows if he's actually been successful or not, or even what specifically he's looking for. We just know that he's trying to reach kids.
Culeado, siento que hay cero chance que haya tenido éxito, weón. Si te metías a sus páginas y todas las weas pareciera que salieron del creepypasta culeado más brígido de internet, weón, no creo que haya tenido... Ojalá que no haya tenido éxito, weón. Ojalá, culeado.
As
ojalá,
evidenced
weón.
not only
No hay
by
chance,
his
weón.
comments, but by the fact that he's solely following children on all of these pages. And though it's easy to look at these accounts and know that something is off, for children, it's not that simple, especially when there's pages showcasing photos of actual kids. Which brings up another frightening detail. Many of the images he's used of children have not been traced back to their original creator, and some seem to appear for the very first time online publicly on this man's pages, which might mean that he was sent them privately. There's even one image that David posted on his schoolboy account, which shows another kid that he claimed to be on a playdate with.
A ver, esto... ¿Se ve así la publicación real?
Though it's impossible to say if this is real or
Conche tu madre, weón. Oh, miren esa... Calmado.
No.
Weón, no se ve ni siquiera humano, weón. Miren. Qué asco, culiado. ¿Cómo así? ¿Cómo lo logra, weón? Debe estar editado, no creo que se vea así nomás por el puro maquillaje, weón. Mira la lengua, weón.
not. For now, we just don't know for sure. Though given the fact that he's reaching out to children, posting fetish content centered around children, and has even potentially photographed kids in the wild, one thing is for certain: smartschoolboy9 needs to be stopped. Finding this man and reporting him to law enforcement quickly became the top priority for those investigating the case. And
Por favor, que sea un ARC. Weón, no hay chance que sea un ARC. Y aunque fuera un ARC, habría que meter preso al weón también, pues weón. Weón, no sé en qué parte de un ARC sería aceptable como comentarle a niños de verdad o hacer como weón, así como weas raras con niños generadas por IA, weón. Así,
luckily, he left
con niños publicar niños reales, weón, eso está mal hoyo. Aunque fuera un ARC, habría que meter preso al weón. Y no creo que lo sea.
several glaring clues behind that made this process a whole lot easier. On numerous occasions across his many pages, he would post images and videos
A ver, ARC. ARC es un ARC, por lo que tengo entendido, es un juego de realidad aumentada, weón. Es un juego interactivo que mezcla ficción con realidad, utilizando múltiples medios y plataformas para crear una experiencia inmersiva y colaborativa en la vida real. Ahí lo escucharon, weón, eso es un arg.
Videos of specific locations, even showing streets and mentioning very particular areas in his poems, all of which centered around the London area, immediately giving us an idea of where he was located. And that wasn't all. I mentioned how the alias of Stephanie was one that he used more so than any other, but what's interesting is that there was another name used just as often across his accounts, brought up time and time again, though it's a name that he never seemed to call any of his characters. Instead, he simply referred to this person as a stepbrother, or a father, or even a friend from school, despite never actually picturing him, just mentioning his name, David. And sure enough, after connecting a few dots, it would be revealed that this person's actual name was in fact David. David Alter.
Pero ¿cómo tan imbécil, weón? ¿Cómo tan estúpido, weón? Es que no... Oh, weón.
With the man being 59 years old. At the moment, it doesn't appear that David has any past criminal convictions or documented history of this behavior, but we do know that thanks to the investigation done on Reddit and Discord, he is currently being investigated by local authorities, which will hopefully put an end to his online behavior and shine some more light on who this person actually is. As for the time being, the only other information that we really know about David is that he likes to write poetry and he makes music.
I think I hear a running tram going back in time, not out of time. I think I like it.
Oye, pero weón, es como satanista, weón. No, era, weón, no, como que... Ya, como que temón, weón, como que temón, tonto, weón. A ver. Así me imagino el metal, weón. Nunca he escuchado metal en la vida, weón, no me odien, weón. No.
And his name also appears in a random newspaper, where he's discussing the importance of kids wearing school uniforms. And that's really all we have at the moment. Though there is one very important aspect that we have yet to talk about in relation to this man, with that being David's mental state. Some believe that David is a mentally unwell individual who potentially doesn't know the extent of what they are doing. Now, even if this is the case, his behavior still needs to be stopped, and he needs to be given proper help to assure that no one else gets hurt by his actions. But it is important to note that David is far more intelligent than he lets on, as his personal accounts show us that he is fairly well-spoken and articulate. And throughout his problematic content, most of his bad grammar and strange verbiage seems to be his attempts at more authentically trying to replicate a child. But it's impossible to know for sure. But what we do know is that
Oh, culiao, está como para hacerle una película este weón, weón. Está, weón, que lo, por favor que lo estudien. Por favor que averigüen que chucha el lore de este culiao, cómo llegó a ser así,
it is
weón.
extremely manipulative, with his response to this situation and other clues littered across his accounts, showing us that he seems to know what he's doing, and he knows that it's wrong. Since the exposure of David's accounts, he hasn't silently slithered away like most other predators would. Instead, he's actually responded on more than a few occasions, lashing out to those who have DM'd him, calling them the perverts and predators. He even left a comment on his Joanne account seemingly directed at himself, writing, "You are really sad, and if that's your name, David, be honest with yourself. You're 50, as you said elsewhere. You reply to me, a girl, as if I'm your buddy? No chance ever." This is something David does all the time. It's projection, and it started all the way back at the beginning of this rabbit hole.
So, that's the account run by a man pretending to be a boy.
And he continued posting these predator exposés, along with other
Siento que los psicólogos del chat están así como cada segundo analizando qué wea este culiao,
warnings
weón.
about
Están poniendo a prueba el título, weón.
predators on the internet across every page he made, each of which being hyper-specific to his own predatory ways and fetishes. The things he accuses others of are blatant projections of his own dark vices. And I can think of two reasons why. Number one, that this makes his account look safer to other parents and children. It gives the appearance that he's not another internet creep, because he's actively calling them out. It's a way to build trust in order to befriend and exploit kids. And number two, he knows what he's doing is wrong, and this is his bizarre way of self-reporting, probably to make himself feel better about what he's doing. And it's obvious based on just how accurate these claims against others are to him. Does he wish he were a young boy in a school classroom, looking nice and being successful at school? Yes. And these claims are made over and over again, as each time he calls someone out, he's further exposing himself. which becomes more concerning when you realize that these projections seemingly aren't strictly pedophilic. Within those eerily familiar expose posts he made on TruthSticks11, he mentions how this user not only wanted to exploit children online, but they wanted to
What?
kill them as well, as he mentions that this user has a clear interest in
¿Qué? Weón, a la cárcel ahora mismo ya, weón. Si no estaba claro antes, culiao.
cannibalizing kids,
Él mismo se está exponiendo. ¿Qué
and
weá,
even
weón?
performing ritualistic sacrifices on them.
Quizá por eso su música es tan rara,
And
weón.
based on how accurate all of the other exposures are to himself, I have no reason to believe that this isn't part of his MO as well, as crazy as that may sound. This also seems to coincide with some of the content he's posted that I can't show you, as some of these photos show children edited in contorted positions, including some where he's added what appears to be rope to give the illusion that they're tied up. And what makes this even more disturbing is that on his accounts, he's posted numerous photos in the vicinity of schools.
¿Cómo que quiere que lo pillen, weón? Como que está pidiendo a gritos que siento yo, sin ser psicólogo ni nada, y obviamente esto puede ser una estupidez, pero siento yo que él mismo quiere que lo metan preso para dejar de hacer esta wea horrible, weón. ¿Cómo va a dejar tantas pruebas, weón? ¿Cómo va a dejar tantas fotos, weón? ¿Cómo va a decir su nombre? ¿Cómo va a decir exactamente lo que quiere hacer, weón? ¿Cómo tanto, weón?
On nearby secluded trails, and even some where he discusses what time school starts and ends, saying that he likes to be awake and ready for it. There's even photos that show other children outside from a distance, almost as if David was stalking them. This is highly concerning. Even if we don't know truly how low this man's perversions get, he is still far too close to children, which is perfectly encapsulated by this photo of him on a school playground during the day. And with his disturbing desires, I don't even want to imagine what he's capable of. Which brings us to the final piece of content that I need to talk about. Chasing another boy running in heeled mini boots. This was the text shown on screen during a short video posted onto one of David's many accounts. And in the video, we see the man pointing the camera at himself, showing his full face of white makeup and red lipstick. This video is edited more egregiously than any others I've seen across his page, with multiple explicit images and huge emojis covering the majority of the screen. Though just barely enough of the footage can be seen that shows David as he turns the camera around, revealing a young boy. Who he then proceeds to chase after, giggling all the while.
Oh, weón, ¿por qué siento que esta wea va a terminar tan mal, weón? Siento que va, weón, en cualquier momento se descubre que ya se comió a un niño, o wea horrible.
Whether
culiao.
this was an edited video or a real occurrence, we don't currently know. David's doings are a mystery that will take some time to unravel, and my hope is that law enforcement will be able to follow through and help shed some more light on this individual, and finally put an end to his twisted behavior. But at this point, only one thing is for sure. The story of smartschoolboy9 is far from over.
Oh, culiao. Ven, chat, weón. Yo les dije que era brígido, weón. Yo les dije que era ridículamente, weón, es pa'l hoyo, weón. Ah, bueno, puedo mostrar, pero le doxearon la casa, weón. Doxearon donde vive, weón. Esta se supone que es como una foto editada de... Pero está editado, weón. Creo que está editado, weón. Creo que no es como él, weón. Es como... ¿Cómo se vería él sin el maquillaje y toda la weá, weón? Aquí le pillaron la máscara que usa para los videos, weón. Weón, le pillaron toda la weá, weón. No se demoraron, pero nada, culeo. Nada, absolutamente nada, weón. Aquí intenté, como que recreaciones de su cara para poder encontrarlo, weón. Ahora cagó este culeo, lo van a pillar luego, weón. Weón, el internet con estas cosas es re brígido, weón. Lo van a pillar en la calle, en cualquier momento lo pillan en la calle, weón.
El video ha llegado a su fin, espero lo hayas disfrutado. Like, campanita y sub por eso.